Welcome to Plead the Cause, where we are pleading the cause of the orphaned and vulnerable children around the world. I'm Tommy Morris. I am the Director of Community Engagement for Heart of the Bride Ministries, and I'm joined once again in the studio by our Executive Director, Mr. Brian Chrisman. What's up, Brian?
Not much, Tommy. How you doing, man?
Doing
Are you
good, man. Doing good.
are you recovered from jet lag and all that kind of good stuff?
I think so. I actually did better on the return trip than I did over there. So yeah,
That's
so
the opposite.
Brian and I just got back from Africa, so you guys know. So how are you doing? Did you adjust quickly?
Yeah, not too bad. It took me a couple days. I wasn't. It wasn't as bad as it has been before, but I kept waking up at 3 a.m., 2 a.m., and just being awake. So,
Yeah,
you
4
know,
a.m. spend my time like every morning. So
that's
yeah,
it. Yeah. So it's good if you want to just go on ahead and get up and get productive.
no
We
doubt.
we could do a whole podcast on, I guess, how to deal with, jet lag. But yeah, you
Yeah,
just if you go ahead and get up and start praying, like you can really spend some great time with the Lord.
yeah, that's about it. Other than that, I have no tips on jet lag, so I'll do the podcast as soon as I figure it out.
Well, someone recommended a new app to me. I can't remember what it's called now. That's supposed to help you like do your schedule and adjust to jet lag on the way back. Someone mentioned it, so we'll try it
Yeah,
next time. See if that works.
next
Then we have
time,
something
next time.
solid to share. Other than taking whatever
That's
that
right.
supplement
Other
is
than
on.
other than just get up and pray and
Get
be
up and pray.
productive,
That's it.
right?
Just
Right.
just use the time productively. That's the
Yeah.
whole thing. So.
Redeem the time. Redeem the time.
So yeah, so you were in Zambia for about 3 weeks.
Yes.
I went
Yep.
to Kenya and then joined you for the last week in Zambia. We missed last week. You and I had we had the intention of recording a podcast over there,
Yeah.
but we just never got to it, man.
No, no, no.
So
Well, I don't know that Zesco was really playing in our favor since the power kept glitching and going
yeah,
out,
that's the
and
power company in and
it was
out.
hot.
It was like 3,000 degrees, so we're just going to use all the excuses and
Yeah.
just whine about it. We didn't get the podcast done, and we're going
Yeah.
to blame everything else. So
That's
that's
right.
fine.
That's right.
But it was a great
Yeah.
time over there, man. Saw God at work in so many different ways. I may do one later about Kenya, but you and I were both in Zambia together, and
Yes.
man, just seeing God do some amazing things, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was great, going about a year and plus a few months from my last trip and being able to see just some of the progress that some of the guys made. And it was just touching to see how God's working in their lives and just the cognitive awareness that people are having, the physical stability that you're seeing in some of these guys who were struggling just a year ago. And I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh
it
yeah.
was great. The spiritual growth and yeah, it
Well,
was
I was going to
exciting.
say, especially the ones that were still on the street when we were there
Yeah.
last year. That's what was so surprising to me. There were, they've done 8 intakes in the
Yeah.
last year, 4 at our under 18 program called the Vineyard, and then 4 in the Skills Training Center for boys over 18.
Yeah.
Some of them young men, age wise
Yeah.
at least. And
Yeah.
so it was just amazing. I didn't even recognize some of those guys. You know,
Yeah.
we'll,
Same.
we'll yeah, Aubrey is the one that sticks out at everybody, and we'll talk about him soon and maybe focus on that. But I mean, he didn't even look like the same guy. It was amazing. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. It was night and day, which was exciting to see. But yeah, like you, there were a lot of faces I did not recognize. I mean, some who I'm not even sure I saw out on the streets a year ago when we were there. But with that being said, that brings up a topic for us to discuss here that some people may not even know. It's not something we've really talked a lot about in previous episodes, but the fact is that we do sponsorships for these guys, and with a lot of new faces in the program, a lot of new intakes, what that does is that provides a lot of new opportunities for sponsoring a kid over in Africa, and we want to talk about that some today. So Brian, just maybe give an overview of what is the child sponsorship that is offered through Heart of the Bride.
yeah. Let's talk about that. One of the reasons why we haven't focused on it a whole lot in the last couple of years is that there weren't a lot of intakes during COVID. That had shut every ministry down around the world, and so we weren't bringing in a lot of kids, especially in Zambia, into residence care. But now that things have opened back up, we're able to bring these guys in, and so we've we've had eight intakes in the last little over a year, and none of those guys are sponsored. So, child sponsorship is the most relational way that you can engage in ministry to one of our children around the world. We've focused before on the fact that Heart of the Bride is a very relational ministry, and so this is the most relational way you can minister to a kid around the world, whether you've met them or not. And we'll talk about that in a minute. There are really three components to supporting ministry to children around the world. There are our international partners, right? The people that we meet, God leads us to, that are on the ground ministering to kids in these other countries. There's Heart of the Bride, right? We're the second component because we're the ones that God has called to facilitate relationship, to meet these people. But then the third person is you, right? It's the person listening to this podcast. It's the people who sponsor through Heart of the Bride. Together, we make up the team that enables ministry to these kids. If you lose either one of those, any one of those, then it can't happen. We've got our partners on the ground. Our sponsors and Heart of the Bride as what we really see ourselves as. That's the ministry that connects the body of Christ around the world to accomplish James 1:27 ministry to orphaned and vulnerable children. So those are kind of the three components to child sponsorship, and that's what it is. It's all three of those things, all three of us working together to minister to kids in an incredibly relational way.
So let's say I want to sponsor a kid and I'm reaching out to you. Walk me through, like, what does this look like? How does this happen? And what does it look like once I express interest in doing this?
Oh, absolutely. Well, obviously, let's just go ahead and say it. Sponsorship involves money. I mean, that's kind of what sponsorship means, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. But it's way more than that. Child sponsorship is a relationship. It's the way that we connect you to a specific child, whether maybe you've been on a trip and you've met one. We've had that happen. If you visit our website, look at a child on our page, or sometimes people reach out to one of our sponsorship coordinators and just ask, hey, who's new? Who really needs sponsorship? Not just the money, but who needs relationship? We've got kids that have differing needs, and sometimes they want to sponsor a certain grade at a school or have some sort of connection like that. But it's a connection to a specific child. When you do that, when you agree to that, then we send you a card with their picture, some information about the child, and then you can put that up somewhere so that you remember it. We have ours up so that we know to pray for the boy that we sponsor in Kenya, so that we can keep him in our minds and pray for him. And so you get that card. You'll get updates periodically as we travel over there, or as our partner supplies them, depending on the ministry. And so you'll know how to pray for them. You can pray for them specifically, know really what's going on in their lives. You'll have their background story, so you'll kind of know what they're battling. But then you'll also get updates as things happen. And we've had people pray for very specific things, an upcoming test, struggling in a certain subject, or even when a kid was having emotional struggles and that sponsor was really engaged, and our partner or our missionary may send them a message saying, hey, we need you to pray for this kid today. Here's what's going on and what we're battling. And so it can be very personal like that. Of course, there's communication. We do facilitate letters back and forth when possible. That's not always possible, and sometimes in some places it can be more regular than others. We have countries now we can't visit, like Haiti, because of the violence down there. So it's very limited. But we do the letters, and the letters, when we can do that, are meaningful to both the child and the sponsor. It's really, two-way communication where you really get to share about life and family and faith, that sort of thing. And then, depending on the situation, both for you and the country, sometimes you can visit your child. We see our sponsored child. I see him a couple times a year, our child. And then, and then some, but the rest of my family, the ones my wife and others that travel, see him at least once a year when we go over together on a mission trip. So now I'll tell you this: in other countries, we don't identify as sponsors because that that means something different in most other countries, and leads to a lot of misunderstanding. So to the child that you're sponsoring, you are a prayer partner. Okay, they understand that you're involved with their ministry and that you're helping in some way. We just kind of avoid the direct, hey, this person's paying for you to do this, because of just the way that kind of gets misunderstood around the world. But and then I'll say this too, just we're open about everything. The money you send doesn't go directly to that kid, right? We don't hand money to children. It goes to supply the ministry to the child. So it goes to our partner or our missionary, whoever's in charge of that ministry, to facilitate the ministry to that child. So that's kind of how sponsorship works. Again, we're trying to facilitate communication and really help you be involved in praying for and knowing the child that you're sponsoring.
Yeah, and one of the key questions, you brought up an important point, right? That this does take money. I mean, this is the beautiful thing we've talked about the physical needs and spiritual needs, and this kind of brings it all together when we've asked people to join us in prayer and engagement and in giving, and this really encompasses all of that. I mean, there is engagement in writing the letters and in being a part of their lives. There's praying for the kids, but then there is that giving component. And often when someone is giving, a key question is how much of this is actually going to the efforts or the person or the ministry that I'm trying to support. Because a lot of organizations, they're going to skim off for marketing fees and for salaries and different things like this. But when someone is going to sponsor a kid, how much of that money is going towards the child?
Yeah, and I want to be careful in how I answer that too, because I don't want to sound like we're accusing any other ministry of something wrong. I'm sure that exists. It's just ministries fund ministry in different ways. And so some people will take an admin fee, administrative fee, out of a sponsorship. At Heart of the Bride, we don't. 100% of money that is given towards child sponsorship goes directly to that ministry. Same thing if you're a site sponsor, like if you're not sponsoring a child, but you want to sponsor a certain ministry, we do that as well. All sponsorships are 100% goes straight to the ministry. We're blessed to fund our administrative costs in other ways. If you give to our core fund, things like that, goes to administrative cost and ministry. But sponsorships 100%. We have felt very strongly about doing that, and God has blessed that throughout the years. And I will say this too about sponsorship. As far you're asking about that, and I can tell you what it costs. Sponsorships at Heart of the Bride are a little different, so I'll explain that in a minute. But it doesn't always cover 100% of what it takes to minister to a child. So we even have sponsors that will ask us that, and we'll say, no, it actually in that ministry takes this much per child, and they'll match that, or they'll try to give more, because it's expensive around the world, and inflation is killing everybody everywhere. But it's and then to know, though, for most of our sponsors, it's because they know, hey, 100% is going there. I want to give more, because I know where it's going. And so, so 100% is the simple answer to that question.
Yeah, that's great. And it is important to know that there are other ways that administrative fees and things are provided for us. But the beauty of this is that when you're wanting to help sponsor a kid that's going to help provide meals or educational supplies, that 100% of what you give is going to go towards meeting those needs for that kid. And that's really important. But we definitely can't overemphasize the fact that the letters and the prayer are also so key. We're
Oh
meeting
yeah,
that physical need, but a lot of these kids, they don't have family, or they're estranged from their family, and just an encouraging letter is so great. We got to take a bunch of letters over on this last trip and distribute them from people who are sponsoring kids and wrote
hmm
letters to their kids, and then the kids wrote letters back, and that's just such a blessing to be a part of that, and continuing to build relationship, and it's great. I mean, yeah, if you can get over there, we always encourage, joining us on a trip, and maybe you'll have the
absolutely,
opportunity to meet your kid. But uh, yeah, letters and
absolutely.
things of that nature, definitely a nice supplement to that. So if someone wants to sponsor, we've kind of talked through some of like what it looks like, but where would they actually go to kind of get the information or to register, and where are there opportunities to sponsor?
Yeah. All right. Well, two ways you can join sponsorship. If you go to heartofthebride.org/sponsorship, that'll take you right to our sponsorship page where you can actually look at some of the profiles of our kids that are available, or you can email your wife, Tommy, Helena at heartofthebride.org. That's HELENA at heartofthebride.org, and you can ask her. She can help you more personally connect with someone. But you can also read profiles at heartofthebride.org/sponsorship, and get involved that way. We have sponsorships in every country that we minister in. So Haiti, India, and Kenya are where we have schools. So those are education sponsorships, which are typically $50 a month. Like I said before, a lot of times it costs way more than that per child to minister there. So some sponsors will. We do this. We actually pay more than $50 a month towards the sponsored kid that we sponsor, and so because we want to help make that up in that area. Zambia is residential, where we just were, so we're ministering to street kids. We bring them off and they're in residence. So resident sponsorship is typically $100 per month. And I guarantee you that doesn't cover it all. So, we don't double sponsor kids. We don't have that where there's 3 or 4 sponsors per kid. We don't have any of that. But we do have some sponsors, like I said, that will step up and sponsor more. And we do have kids available in each one of those areas. Like I mentioned, the 8 new ones at Abba's Heart, Zambia. So those are available. But that's what you do, man. You just go to the website or email Helena, and you can get started.
Yeah. So with this, when we're thinking about the sponsor, what does this do for the sponsor? Like, what is this experience like on this side?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, we focus so much on what it does for the kid, which it does a lot for the child, being sponsored in enabling that ministry, and the encouragement they get from communication. But and I want to be careful here. Not every sponsorship relationship is the same. We've had very personal ones. We've also had some, and sometimes sponsors don't write letters. Okay, so we always make up for that by writing letters and making sure every kid gets a letter. But we also, we're open about the fact that orphan and vulnerable child ministry is difficult. Sometimes children leave our ministry, so we're very thankful for flexible sponsors who may sponsor a child that leaves, and then they sponsor another. We have many that do that. But when it works really well, it's because that's not the norm that a kid leaves. Most of them stay. But when you sponsor, 2 lives are changed. The child, we know you're investing in the life change, both physical, educational, spiritual, in that child. But it really changes us. You get to see firsthand, through reports and updates, the impact that you're having on that child as you sponsor. You can develop a relationship with them. Some it's just simple back and forth, asking some questions. But we've had one family that has sponsored a girl in Kenya for I should have added up the years, probably approaching 10 years from early high school. Now she's in college. And man, they've sponsored her all along. They put her picture up on their refrigerator, called her one of their children, because she is an orphan. She has no parents. They count her as one of their kids. I've met their biological daughter, and she calls Sharon her sister. Now that Sharon's an adult, they actually communicate directly. We don't allow that with minors, to connect on Facebook or anything like that. But Sharon's an adult, and so now she has social media and a phone, and so they talk directly and keep up with her and pray for her. And so it's just an incredibly sweet relationship. We've had some others. I've traveled with people who know their sponsored children in Haiti. One of the guys that used to go down there with me pretty often. I mean, we worked alongside the child that he and his wife had sponsored through the Human Care School, and now that guy was back teaching at Human Care School. So it's cool to see that kind of relationship last that long, and see it come full circle where now they're serving together. So sponsorship can be an incredibly rewarding and a blessing to us as we engage in it. I've already mentioned that my family and I we've watched the little boy we sponsor from the first time he entered Eagles Christian Academy in kindergarten. Now he's in 6th grade, I believe. Ooh, He's sixth or seventh. I think he's in sixth. I should know this, but he, we've watched him grow. We've prayed for him as he battled through some of the trauma he experienced early in life. And then just a few weeks ago, I was in Kenya and I was had the honor to baptize him as he's accepted Christ this year. And so, so it can be very special, very rewarding if you engage and be a part of sponsorship in a personal way.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've talked about this, I think, on our last year when we went on the trip about the blessing that is there. Like, I think a lot of times we focus on how God is going to use us to bless the child, but it really is that two-way street. Like the sponsorship, the trips over there, it's two-sided as far as how God is going to work. He's going to do a work in that child, and he's using you and your time and efforts as you take a trip, or your money and your encouragement and your prayers that you sponsor a child. But don't sleep on it. God is going to do a work in you as well. Like, God is going to
Absolutely.
use that to grow you closer to him as you step out and you're walking in the character of God and you're doing the work of ministry in his
Absolutely.
name. And it's just amazing what God can do on both sides of that.
Absolutely.
So,
It's not why we do it, but when you walk in obedience, right?
yeah,
When you serve in his name, I mean, yeah, there's blessing in that, and
yeah,
joy, it's definitely a blessing. Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, so we just want to encourage you that if you want to get involved with sponsorship, Brian's already shared that you can go to our website at heartofthebride.org/sponsorships, and you can check out some of the profiles there. You can look at the different countries and see what sponsorship opportunities are available there, or you can email my wife, Helena, Helena, at heartofthebride.org, and talk with her about different opportunities as well. And then, as always, Brian, we always put your email out there. If you have questions just in general
Absolutely.
about missions work, you can reach out to our executive director here, Brian, Brian, at heartofthebride.org. And we would love to talk with you just about different opportunities for sponsorship, for trips over, and for different ways to engage and partner with us, as we continue to serve these kids around the world. So, Brian, any final closing thoughts on sponsorships or just Heart of the Bride in general?
I think our general challenge right now that God has given to us, to the church, is this: the crisis is real. Children are in crisis around the world, but we believe God has an answer, and that's you. It's the body of Christ, and so we just want to challenge you. And this is our, kind of, we feel like this is like our new message that God's given us, is be the answer. And this is one way that you can be the answer. Join sponsorship and be a part of being the answer to a child in crisis around the world.
Yeah, definitely. All right. We look forward to partnering with you as we continue to plead the cause for the orphaned and vulnerable children around the world. All right. Until next time. Thank you.